Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Speakeasy. Yes, it's time for a Speakeasy. Today is June 23rd, 2023, and this is the 8th Speakeasy, so welcome, welcome. The topic tonight is the Major Arcana. So we're going to start kind of teasing apart the Major Arcana. We're going to talk a little bit of tarot history so you kind of have some perspective. Oh, hi, Julia. Hi, Julia's here. Julia the Diehard is here. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Major Arcana, and it's going to be a little bit of tarot history so you have some perspective on it. And it's just going to be kind of like a first cursory look over it. And we can do more deep dives into some of the symbolism and stuff with the majors. But I just want to take a look at with you at just what's there, and not get overwhelmed by this is spooky or this is weird or or whatever your reaction might be, because that's where the big reactions come usually, is with the majors. There's some with the minors, but the majors, you get a lot of big reactions like the devil, death, judgment. People don't like those cards. So oh, Julia says the sound is echoing. Is it still echoing? Do I need to, maybe I need to, did I mute? Okay, no, I'm not muted. Okay, all right, I'm muted, but I don't have the live window up, so it shouldn't be a problem. Am I still echoing? Am I still, oh, wait, I think I'm on the wrong, let me see. Why is the audio not here? That's weird. Oh, it's here. Am I still echoing, Julia? Yes, but I can understand you. I wonder what's going on here. Let me see. That is card cam. Do I sound better over here on card cam? Does card cam sound better? Julia's not answering. I'm going to go back to me. Back to me. Am I echoing? Am I still echoing? Okay, that's what I was worried about. Let me see. I'm looking at the, okay, yeah, I think it's the wrong. All right. How's that? I changed the microphone, I think. I changed it. Is that better? Is it better, Julia? I changed the mic. Better, better? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Much better. Okay, perfect. Let me, and I'll double check. Card cam is, okay, that is correct. Okay, second screen. That should be right. Okay, I wonder what happened there. But whatever, it didn't solve the settings. Okay. All right. So anyway, welcome to Speakeasy. We're going to talk about the Major Arcana. And because that's what makes tarot tarot, right? Because otherwise it's just a set of playing cards with pictures on it. So that is what makes tarot tarot, is the Major Arcana. That is what we're talking about tonight. But while I'm waiting for people to come in, if they're going to come to this speakeasy, I just was going to talk about how my week has been. Uh, Mercury has been in Gemini all week. I thought that was going to be good, but it actually hasn't worked out that way for me. I thought I was going to get stuff done on the book and everything because Mercury, writing, communication. But no, really, it's just been like my brain is just going, it's just going off, and it's like there's too much activity in the brain, and it's like there's a lot of overwhelm. But for me personally, Saturn is still sitting at 7 Pisces opposite my personal Mercury, so that's not helpful. But I thought Mercury and Gemini would help it, but no. It's not really helping, not at this point. So I've got one more week left of Mercury and Gemini. Maybe it'll clear up, maybe it won't. I don't know. But I've been going a little nuts. I'll be honest. Um, I keep talking about the book. Here it is. Here it is. You can see pages. Maybe I'll put it on card cam. Let me switch the card cam. Yeah. So yeah, here's the book. I put it all out, and then I'm I have these worksheets, and I kept going back and forth, like, do I want them in the book, or do I want them at the end in an appendix? And so right now they're kind of both, but I've been going through and putting them in, and then if I want to move them out later, I can. But that's the book. Also, for solstice, I made some solstice water, some sun water. So I put this jar out without this picture on it, but I put this jar out in the solstice sun. What did Julia said? Something like, oh, Julia said she's anxious to be ordered the book. I appreciate that. Thank you. I need the encouragement, because like the amount of just stuff, like internal stuff that comes up that wants me to not do it is incredible. It's incredible. I'm trying to work through it. But anyway, I made the sun water. I put this jar out on solstice, and then I painted this little sun face, and put it on there. So I mean, I'm just showing you, hey, I did do something this week. I did. And then I've been like trying to paint, like, I want to make like a tarot or an oracle deck, like mixed media. So like, I'm just fooling around. So that's like a little sun face I did. And like, this is like an Ace of Pentacles. It's not bad. This has nothing to do with tarot. This is a bear that I painted, and the greenery around him is really stupid looking, but I like the bear. I really like this bear. He's a cool bear, that's all I have to say. And I did this like pelican bird. And this is not watercolor paper, and there is a difference when you're not using watercolor paper, but it still looks pretty nice. This little sunset pelican type bird. And then I'm obsessed with eyes, with eyeballs. I gotta put that down there. Yeah, so I painted that, and this is definitely not watercolor paper. And then I did this one kind of recently here. This is like working on the Hermit. So I mean, I don't know, it's getting there. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just thought I would share with you what I'm up to this week. So if you want to put in the chat how your week was, you can do that. Julia says you're doing a great job. Be proud of your creations. Well, thank you. I'm trying. Okay, so it's 8 after. So let's get started with the presentation. Okay, so now I gotta go to second screen, and okay, and then I put my presentation up over. Hang on, I'm switching. Okay. All right. So hopefully you can see that. I think you should be able to see that. I'm looking around. There's so many different things to look at. Okay. Yeah, I think you can see it. So here we go. Okay. So this is about the tarot trumps, or the Major Arcana, insights from the ancients. And the deck that I'm using in this presentation is the Marcel Tarot, that's the first deck I started with, which is actually kind of a difficult deck to start with, but I didn't know. I just grabbed it because I like woodcuts. So here we go. These are just outlines in the Marcel Tarot. Okay, so the goal for tonight is overview of the setting from which tarot emerged, which will help us understand the elements of the tarot trumps and how tarot has evolved as our worldview has evolved. So that's what's nice about tarot is it's not a static thing. It's not a static form. You know what I mean? It's like it is what it is, and it came from wherever it came from, and it came out of a certain worldview, but that doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. It can change as people change. So the tarot started as the game of tarocchi in Italy. It first appears in 1400s. And then by the late 1700s, it was used for divination in France. That we know for sure, for sure. It could have been used for divination, earlier than that and in different places, but we don't really have good sources to confirm that. So, in that time, really between the 1400s and the 1700s, you have to remember, of course, there were, I guess the printing press came out eventually in there kind of late in that period. But at first, there were no printing presses, so wealthy people commissioned like decks to be made for them. And sometimes they would put themselves in the deck or they would put different things in the deck because, they're kind of like custom made. So there were varying numbers of cards in the tarot deck, like the Minciotti Tarot, which you can still buy. It has like 90 something cards. It has a lot of different trumps in there that we don't have today. But at one point, it's like it kind of got standardized, kind of like the Bible, where they're like, oh, we're getting rid of these books and we're keeping these books. So kind of same thing happened with tarot. And the person that did this was the Sataya guy. So if you're into like esoteric stuff, you might know this guy's name or you heard it, Ataya. And in 1789, he kind of said, okay, this is the tarot deck of 78 cards. And so he picked out the 22 trumps and kind of said, this is it. And then added the rest of it, and that's 78 cards. And that's what we have today. And he is the one that coined Major and Minor Arcana. Before that, it was not Major and Minor Arcana. It was just the cards and the trumps. So Tay is the one who did that. And the game of tarocchi is still played today in Europe. So, and if you go online, you can look it up and you can find out how to play it. I have no interest in that, but if you do, you can do that. So, all right. So let's chat a bit about how the ancients conceived of the world. You may have seen a diagram like this before. And so the point of this is that, obviously they didn't have the view that the sun was the center of the solar system. As we know, that was a big paradigm change. But they had it was like all of these celestial spheres, surrounding the earth. So it's like the earth is like in this view is kind of like the most base element. And it's like the only thing lower than earth is hell. I mean, it's like that's the only worst place you could be. And then as you go up, we have the moon, we have Mercury, we have Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and then you go up even further. How do I you go up further, you go through all these different spheres, and there's angels and all these other creatures, whatever, and then God is way up here. God is way up here, angels are out here, all these things. God is way up here. So that's why I say it's like Earth is considered like it's not a great place. Like it's like I said, the only place that you could be that was worse is in hell. And the devil presided over the earthly realm in that time. So that's why a lot of these old, even like in really old fairy tales and stuff, like there's all these weird like instances with the devil and stuff because they believed like the devil kind of he presided over the earth, and if you needed anything, you went to the devil. Like you didn't go to God, you went to the devil. If you needed earthly stuff, like you needed money or you needed a plow fixed or whatever it is, that's who you went to. You went to the devil, not to God, because God was too, he was too pious for all of these things. And I will add, I am not a historian. I'm not a scholar. This is just my understanding of it. But I think if you do a little research, you'll see that I'm at least getting the correct gist of it. Okay. So also at that time, let me advance my slide. At that time, uh, astrology and astronomy were the same thing. That was before they were split. That was before science. Okay, the whole scientific era and scientific reasoning kind of comes along at the end of the period, but not, it wasn't there in the 1400s, that's for sure. So anyway, yeah, so astrology and astronomy were the same thing, and uh, it's just like the days of the weeks are named after the planets. I mean, you would see things like this is a clock that has the signs of the zodiac. You would see all of these um, things that connected. They were looking more at the stars way more than we do now, obviously, because they didn't have electric lights, and so it was just nature was just more of a dominant force. People lived a more natural lifestyle. They got up at sunrise, they went to bed shortly after sunset. People weren't running around at night unless they wanted to get out, wanted to be out there and get killed by some robber or something. The church had feast days based on the moon, all of this. So it was a different time. After the industrial age, it's like we just became a lot more mechanical about how we approach things, and we have like accurate clocks, and we expect everybody to be certain places at certain times and all of this, and we don't have, it's like we don't have time to sleep. We don't have time for all these things that they used to have time for. So that's just my point. Okay. So that is reflected by the sun, moon, and star and world cards, because it's just depicting those things. And I'm not saying this is all that these cards mean at all. I'm just saying, like, the point of this is, like I said, just wanted to take a quick overview and a survey of what's in the tarot deck. So this is one way of looking at it. And it's only one, and there's many ways to look at it. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay, so we have the sun, we have the moon. In astrology, these are the two luminaries, right? They're the two big bright lights. And the sun is the luminary of the day, and the moon is the luminary of the night. And so the sun has reliable light, warmth, and energy. It feeds the worlds with its radiance. And the moon is the queen of the night, and it's ever changing, right? Because the moon has different phases. The sun always looks the same. The moon changes. And one of the things that happens in astrology is the moon acts as a translator of the light between planets. So, like, the moon will touch one planet, and because it moves so fast, then it'll move along and it'll touch another planet. And so it moves that energy. So that was kind of like the job of the moon, if you will, to, to do that, to bring light to the different planets and reflect energy and all of that kind of thing. Um, so, if you want to look at it from that perspective, like the sun card, it lights things up. It adds energy and brightness to things. So in that way, it's a positive card because it's like, yeah, it lights things up. It brings things up. You know, it shines a focus on things. It gives energy and radiance to things. And so it's a good, it's quote unquote a positive card. I guess on the negative side, it's like, too much light can burn, too much sun can burn, but we don't really use that one. You don't, we really don't use that in tarot like as a like I've never said, oh, this is too much sun here. I don't think anybody ever says that. But if you say that, whatever, you might say that. And then the moon, yeah. So the moon card, like a lot of times you'll hear, is this like confusion and uncertainty, and that's because the moon is out at night, and so maybe it's a time when the moon isn't very full and you really can't see, and you don't know what's out there. And like I said, at this period of time, like people weren't running around at night, unless they were looking for trouble, and so it's scary out there. There's wolves out there. There's, these are dogs on the card and the crazy crayfish and all this stuff. So that, that's could be part of how, like, we got these ideas about the moon card, like I said, being like confusion and uncertainty with the moon. Also, like, the moon brings in concepts of like lunacy, like people going kind of crazy, people having, you could even extend that to like maybe having like issues with drugs or whatever, which is, that's all like moon regulation. Like if your emotions are not regulated, then you're too far on one side or the other and you're acting like a lunatic, right? So I think you get the idea. All right, so moving on. We've got the sun. I mean, the star. The star. So the star is the stars in the sky. That's what we have. Now, this card looks suspiciously like the astrological sign of Aquarius. And so, no one really knows like where a quote unquote Aquarius came from. This whole water bearer thing. It is associated with the story of Ganymede, which was like this young boy that Zeus like kidnapped and took up to Olympus and made him like the water bearer of the gods, and so he would like serve them drinks and stuff like that. So, I don't know. And the whole idea of what Aquarius symbolizes has changed over time. So that's kind of like what I was talking about. The cards evolve, astrology evolves. In the old school, Aquarius was not, now Aquarius is like a rebel and a weirdo and somebody that's real freaky weird and stuff like that. But in the old days, it wasn't. It was associated with Saturn because it's ruled by Saturn. So it was more of kind of like, yeah, you could be an outsider, because Saturn, you have the inside outside kind of dynamic, but not so much like this rebel and freaky weird thing. It was not that. And I find it interesting that the star card and the temperance card look similar. They both have, two water vessels or cups, and the star is pouring the water on the ground, and temperance is pouring the water between the cups. And temperance looks like an angel. So I don't know, just to throw an idea up out there, it's like maybe the star is like the nighttime renewal through the waters, and temperance is the daytime renewal through the waters, the pouring of the waters. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. We're just talking about what's here and what it looks like. Okay, and then the last one in that group is the world. So the world is the world. But interestingly, in the world card, the astrology pops in there again because we have these four figures here. And so these are the four fixed signs. This is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And we were just talking about Aquarius. So it's like the world and the signs that have to do with the world, because like Aquarius is, it can be the sign of man, and then Leo is the sign of being, and then we have Taurus, which is very earthly, so it's kind of like the earth itself. And then we have Scorpio, which they depict here as an eagle, not the scorpion. So yeah, so that's there. So that's the world, and that's the last card of the deck. And so it's kind of like the world We see it as a symbol of completion, as of like you bringing all these different parts together and these different experiences, and it's like you're making a life out of it. It's the world. And then I just included my version of the world just to put it there. So is that all right? So let me go to the next slide. I'm going to pop in and see what's happening in chat, if anything. Um, Julia says, my week falling down rabbit holes while working on my website. Oh, yeah. The website, it can definitely be a rabbit hole. Yeah. I've been avoiding mine. Mine needs a lot of work, and I'm avoiding it right now. Avoiding. Okay. All right. So back to the presentation. Okay. So what else shows up in the tarot card deck or in the tarot trumps is the heavenly virtues of justice, strength, and temperance. And strength, it really is fortitude, but that is the equivalent of strength in the deck, and temperance. And we were just looking at temperance a second ago. So let's take another look. Okay, so we have strength, the lady holding open the jaws of the lion. We have justice, which is a very familiar symbol, or not, it's not really a symbol, but it's an archetype that we're very used to and we're very familiar with. The scales of justice. We still have lady justice outside courtrooms. So that's another aspect of like where tarot came from, the worldview at the time. Like, this is still in the Dark Ages when the tarot deck appears, and then it's going toward the Renaissance. And so all of the information was from the ancient Greeks and Romans. Like that was like the knowledge of the world. So that's what they drew upon because they didn't, that. Let me put it that way. That's what they had. So justice, yeah, like that, it comes from the Greek and Romans. We've seen that. And then there we have temperance again, temperance with the pouring of the waters. So, we could it's like kind of like these, it's like these three maidens and these three fair virtues, strength. Strength is about like, you got to hang in there. You got to have the strength and the fortitude to make it through something. You have to have a courageous heart. You have to have the heart to do it. And it's always interesting that strength is a feminine spirit. It's not a man. It's not a man conquering a lion. It's a woman conquering a lion by forcing open its mouth. So that's one of those things you can kind of ponder upon, like what does that really mean? What does that mean? And like I said, I'm happy to talk about that again in other speakeasies, but I just kind of wanted to get through all the trumps today so we can talk about it more. Okay, and then we talked about justice, and then temperance again. Temperance she's an angel, and she's pouring this like elixir back and forth. So maybe that's why we have that association with temperance as healing. That's one of the associations we have. But it is kind of mysterious. Like why is this angel appearing and pouring water or something back and forth between cups? I tried to research this, like what's this cup idea, but I didn't really find anything. So if somebody finds something on that, let me know. Okay, and so then some other Christian symbolism that shows up is we have the tower. So this could be the Tower of Babel. I'm not saying it is the Tower of Babel. I'm saying it could be the Tower of Babel. So yeah, so it's like, and the whole idea with Tower of Babel is like, people thought they were all that, and they were better than God, and they're going to build this super high tower to God, and God said, I don't think so, and he destroyed the tower. So we have that concept with the tower, like pride goeth before a fall. Tower can also be unexpected things that happen that cause chaos and problems. But yeah, I mean, pride goeth before the fall, or just things getting destroyed. That's the tower. And then we have judgment And this is one of those cards that often scares people. They don't like that card, the Last Judgment. So it's when, I don't, is it Gabriel that blows the horn and raises the dead and everybody comes up from the grave and all the saved people leave? So we have a depiction of that here in the tarot. So the way I look at the Judgment card is I call it the coming out card. So it's like, yeah, you're hearing the call of something and you're answering that call. And I think that's like I said, things change with time, and a lot of people look at it that way. That it's like, yeah, you're hearing the call of something, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the last call. The last call for the souls to leave the earth, not necessarily. Okay, and then I put like this is the Gaian tarot, and she calls this card awakening, which I like that. I like that. So it's an awakening. It's an awakening to something, whether that's a spiritual awakening or other a kind of awakening. It's an awakening. So it's kind of like like I said, with the tower, you have a fall, and then with the Judgment card, there's an awakening. So, and they are not in numerical order next to each other, but they don't need to. They don't need to be, because there is, nobody. That's kind of part of the point of this presentation is that nobody planned out the tarot. Like nobody said, yeah, this is card one, this is card two. Like I said, there were all these different trumps, and eventually somebody decided, well, we're just using these, but they were all different kinds. I had the Minchiotic tarot for a while. I wish I still had it, but it had the four elements. Like it had earth, air, fire, water. It had all the zodiac signs. I think it had the planets in there, so it had like a lot of other stuff, and then some other like had like the Eastern Emperor and the Western Emperor and like different things. So that's the point. Is no one like made this, like created this system and said this is how it's going to be. It is just somehow, some way come together on its own. And so this is what we have. This is what we have. Okay, so we did Judgment. Okay. And then I was like, well, okay, if the tower isn't the Tower of Babel, maybe it's just these are like man-made objects. We have the tower and the chariot. Like these are two man-made objects that show up in the tarot deck, like towers and chariots. So I mean, obviously, like I said, there's a lot more to this than that. But just like I said, just as glancing through the cards and saying what's here, this is what's here. I could even put the chariot with like the emperor and the empress and be like, this is part of the royal family. We have the chariot. It's debatable. It's debatable, but the chariot is about like most people say it's about achieving victory. It's about having a focused intent in action. Um, and then, there's these weird moon face things on his shoulders. And so the Golden Dawn associated this card with the moon. It could be because, like I was talking about, how the moon moves through the skies and it moves very quickly. It's like you often hear that the sun is riding a chariot through the skies. Well, maybe the moon is riding a chariot through the skies. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm just throwing it out there. And there's other things. I've heard things about the horses going one direction and the other direction. And it's weird that the wheel is like not facing forward, it's facing sideways, but we're not going to dig into that right now. But I'm just pointing some stuff out. Just pointing some stuff out. Okay, and then after that we have the devil. The devil. For some reason, I always think of that Seinfeld episode. Have you ever seen that Seinfeld episode where uh, what's her name? Elaine's boyfriend, like, gets all painted up for some sports event, and the team is the Devils, and then he is like running around on the street, and there's like some, it wasn't the Pope, but like some high up Catholic guy riding in like a limo, and he's like, he goes against the window, "We're the Devils, we're the Devils," and he scares them. That's funny. I just always think of that. I can't help it. So yeah, so we have the devil. The devil is here in the tarot. So You know, he is the ruler of the earth. He is the king of deceit. He is, uh, Mr. Chaos Generator. He's trying to pull everybody away from God. You know, there's all so many things, so many things we could say about the devil, but we're not going to dwell on him today. We're just going to move on and note that he's here. I'm real quick. Okay, nobody's saying anything. Okay, cool. All right. So next we have the Wheel of Fortune, Lovers, and Death. Okay, so Wheel of Fortune, Lovers, and Death. So this is kind of like life's a bitch and then you die. These are like life events or things that happen in your life. So, like the Wheel of Fortune is just what it sounds like, the Wheel of Fortune. Like we still have some of these concepts now, because if you spin the wheel, you don't know. You don't know if you're going to win or lose. You don't know if you're going up or down. It's the fickle finger of fate. Like anything could happen. Anything could happen. Like we don't know. It's like you have your plans and God laughs. That's the Wheel of Fortune. Then we have the lovers card. So, like, yeah, you get in relationships or you have to make choices. You have to choose between two paths. Um, yeah, so that's the lovers, things that happen. Like sometimes you get shot by Cupid, and that's kind of involving this Wheel of Fortune, like you weren't looking and you fall in love, or sometimes you have an arranged marriage and you get married. You know, it's all part of life. And then at the end, you die. You die. Death. Nothing lasts forever. You die. Okay, and then we have the Empress and the Emperor. So we have some pairs of cards so that seem to go together. So we have the Empress as like the female ruler, the Emperor as the male ruler. Notice they both have the same eagle on their shield. You know, they whatever you call this thing, same baton or whatever rulerships. You know, so we have the Empress and the Emperor, and we have a High Priestess, Hierophant. So we have the High Priestess, the Hierophant, they're religious rulers, the female religious ruler, the male religious ruler. Okay, makes sense. And then this is an interesting card. This is the Hangman. And so, evidently, at the time in like the 14 and 1500s, when the tarot cards were around in Italy, this is how they dealt with like traitors and cheats and thieves. They didn't actually hang them like that. They drew pictures of them in this position and stuck them up everywhere. And that was very defaming. That was like that's how you defamed people, was by hanging them upside for have drawing pictures. So it's like if we drew like sometimes they draw those political cartoons and they are making fun of people and they don't draw, they draw a caricature of them. They don't look very good. They don't look good in the in the cartoon. It's kind of the same thing. So that's where the hangman card came from. And then there are some versions of the hangman where you'll see like uh, it's like Judas with his bags of silver. See, and so it just follows the same train of logic. It's like, okay, we have somebody that's a traitor to the state. Well, he Judas was a traitor to Jesus, so we can use him in the same depiction, right? And then I've also heard, like associations where Odin hung himself upside down from the world tree in order to be given the knowledge of the runes. And I have seen tarot cards with that image of Odin hanging, but I couldn't find one. But this is the Light Seers Tarot, and so these are the runes. This is making reference to that with the runes. So this is kind of a nice example that shows how the cards evolve over time, and it evolves with society. So that's that. That's the Hanged Man. And then we have the Hermit and the Fool. So we have the Wise Man and the Fool. Like, right, we see the Hermit as a wise man. And we see the fool is a fool. We have the wise man fool. And like I say, this is another instance where there's a lot more to this. It's not just that, but I'm just throwing that out there. It's like if we're looking over this, we're like, oh yeah, there's a wise man and there's a fool. Um, and it's kind of interesting. The hermit is like, you know, he's obviously he's like a monk or something, and so he has a purpose, and he lives in a very specific place. You know, I don't think they really wandered around too much, or maybe they did. I know like the Eastern Buddhist monks or whatever they do, and that they may I don't know. In India they don't well I think they do at certain times, but I think at the other times they're just away in the caves. But anyway, he has a place, an established place, and the fool has no established place, and he has no purpose. He's just wandering around. So that's something to ponder. And then the last card we have is the magician. It's the magician. We haven't talked about the magician. And so you can see in this depiction here of the magician, he does look like an actual magician, what we think of as a stage magician. Like this looks like this might be a ball and cups setup, where you do that game. I'm not sure about this knife, and this thing looks like a weird purse. I don't really know what that is, but he looks like kind of like a magician. And then, but this is a card from 1899, and by then we have the magician depicted with the elements on the table, because like the way we talk about the magician now is like he's manipulating the elements of the world, the earth, air, fire, and water, to create what he wants. But originally, obviously, that wasn't on his table. So like that kind of morphed later. He's kind of more of an everyday guy that you might meet, out in the market, and just here in this Marcel version. And then, but then later on, it's like we think of him as more of an alchemist or a wizard or something more along those lines is kind of how that works out. So I believe that's my last slide. Yes, that is the last slide. So let me, ta-da, I'm back. Okay. Okay. All right. So does anyone have questions, questions or comments about any of these idea of the trumps? So I mean, what card do you have questions about? And we can look at it. We can brainstorm. Um, or do you have any different ways of looking at some of the trump cards or the major arcana cards that other people do not usually use? So just let me know. Let me know in the chat. And if you have a question you want me to ask the cards, we can do that too. We can do that. I got my deck. I'm ready. I'm ready. Julia says, do you ever do readings using only the majors? Very rarely. Very rarely. It's because I feel like when you do that, unless you have like a really specific purpose behind it, it kind of waters them. It waters them down because it's like they're very strong. You know what I mean? So when the majors come up, it's like, ooh, pay attention. There's something. There's something here. But if you do all majors, then it's like, oh, well, they're all the cards in the spread are strong. If that makes any sense. So I would do all majors if I'm like, I don't know. If you want to do maybe something about life purpose or lessons needing to be learned or something like that, you might do it like in all majors. And I would keep it to very few, very few. Because otherwise, it's just like I said, it seems to be watered down. So no questions, no questions for the cards. I need to get like more prepared and have questions um, that I can use. But I do have one. I can ask about the book that's driving me crazy. Like, and I can just pull majors for it. That's what I'll do. I'll pull majors. I'll write cards down, and then it's like, but I'll keep flipping until I get a major. You'll see once I get there. I'm going to card camp. Going to card camp. Okay. All right, here we have card cam. So I got this. This is a Marcel's deck. It's just a cheap deck I got on Amazon because I was just like, oh, I want a Marcel's deck for this. And like I said, it's the first deck that I had. So I like it. It's brought back memories. I don't really like how they colored this one. I'm not thrilled with it, but whatever. Okay. So what I want to ask the cards about is, okay. Oh, it's about like getting this book done. And I will say, what is the best approach for me to get this book put together and over to the editor? Because I'm using an editor, and this is where I don't know, I just get overwhelmed with just looking at this. So what's the best approach for me to get this book done and over to the editor? All right, so I'm just going to pull one card and see. So that is not a major. Oh, there's the magician. There's the magician. There he is. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay, you can see that. Okay, so, all right, so the magician. So I was talking about the magician. And so, one thing about the magician is that it's you can say it's male energy. And so it's like male creative energy, so masculine energy. So that means outward action and energy. This is not necessarily interior work. Well, in magic too. I have been using some magic. Like I made some candles. I'll show you my candles. They're burning right now. They're burning right now. So I made a Mercury candle and a Saturn candle. And so when I work on the book, I go, Mercury, give me the words, and Saturn, give me the discipline to get this book done. So that's magic right there. And then I also got my Mercury statue. I brought that up last week. I was like, I had a problem with the mail and this not getting here. So the Mercury statue has made it here. So there's the Mercury statue. So yeah, I don't know. I think I went a little overboard with the magic, overwhelmed myself. I think that was part of it too. All right, so, okay, so it's the magician. It's the magician. Work the magic. Work with what I've got and make it come together. This is all the stuff I've got on the table. Work on it. Make it come together. Make it happen and make it. Create the illusion for everyone. Create the illusion. It's like, oh, it looked like it was so easy, but they don't see behind the scenes and see how torturous and crappy that it was. So that's that. All right, let me go back to the chat. I am on the chat. Okay. Where's OBS? Oh, it's over here. Ta-da! Okay, now I'm back. Okay. All right, so that was that. So anybody else have a question? Let me think. I can't see. If I had stuff written down, I would be able to think of it. But when I'm sitting here doing a live stream, I'm like, I don't know what to ask. All right. Okay, I got one. I'm gonna go back to card cam. Okay. All right, so I'm dealing with my HOA and like I don't want to go into all that, but it's you know it's an HOA. If anyone has dealt with an HOA, I think you know what I'm talking about. So I want to ask, like, what is the nature of the HOA and how it functions? So, yeah, okay, what's the nature of the HOA and how it functions? And I'm going to do only majors. Okay, so nature of the HOA. We need a major. We need a major card. Ooh, look at that. That's the Ace of Cups. That's pretty cool. That's a knight. Another knight. Okay. Oh, the nature is the devil and how it functions. All right. So we need another card for how it. Oh, okay. Whoa. 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 Okay. So we got the devil and death here. So the nature of the HOA is the devil. And how it functions is death. Okay. Wow. So I would say the nature of it is, the nature of the how it functions is that I think it takes advantage of the fact that many people think this is something that they don't have control over. You know, because that's the thing with the devil, is that it's like things that control you, and you don't really realize that you have the control is yours, the power is yours. You're giving your power away a lot of times with the devil card. So yeah, so that's the nature of it. And then how it functions is death. Okay, death is like it puts an end to things. That doesn't quite make sense. Death. Does anyone have ideas? Death. You know, it buries things. Like you get buried in the ground. So it's things that are underground. So it's like, yeah, it just, yeah, and I think that kind of piggybacks on this idea that it's like people think that they don't have any control over anything, and then things are happening underground, so to speak. And I think that just adds to it. I think that adds to it. So that's where I'd go with that one. That was kind of a tough one. That was a tough one. All right. Okay. Woo, that was weird. Okay. Where am I? Me cam. Yeah, me cam. All right. So I'm back. Let me check. Oh, I still have chat. Okay. Julia says one phase ends, so another begins. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know exactly how that applies to this other than I'm trying to create that change, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how that one turns out. So, yeah. So, anything else? Did you enjoy this? Was this too much information? Enough information? Not enough information? Confusing information? You can tell me so that I can do a better job. Just let me know. Like, was this you're at the end of this? You're like, I have no idea. I don't know anything now. I still don't know anything. Or you're like, that was just, it was good, but it was too much. Or you're like, you didn't go, you should have gone deeper on fewer things. Or like, what are you thinking, people? What are you thinking? Let me know. Let me know. You can put it in the chat. Um, yeah. And then Julia says, enjoyed that, liked the card groupings. Yeah, I was hoping that would help. If you just put them in different groups, and you can do this yourself. You can put your deck out and go, oh, like, what does it look like to me? What does it look like? What goes together and what doesn't go together? And you can just think about it in terms of that, and it's like that doesn't, like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the be all end all of what those cards are about, but it's a way of thinking about them, and it kind of makes it easier when they show up. So, okay, well, if that is it, we're at our hour. I'm gonna like sign off. Also, next week, no speakeasy. I have a scheduled break because I'm gonna be somewhere else. And it's like, it was funny when I was scheduling, I was like, oh, I feel like I should take that day off. And then it turned out that I had something that day. So I was like, yeah, I was right. Just take that off. So that's the 30th, I believe. But I'll be back in July. I guess that next weekend that's kind of the 4th of July weekend. So I don't know. I guess I'll come on anyway. People may be here, people may not be here. If you have any ideas of what you want to know about, put it in the comments. Put it in the comments, and I will certainly consider it. I need ideas, and so yeah, have a great Friday, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.